I'm Jolene Wynn, and this is the Porn Addict's Wife podcast, a bonus episode, Transformation with Life Coaching, Gina. I used to think of myself as the wife of a porn addict, but I do not think of myself that way anymore, and you don't have to either. In this podcast, I am going to teach you how to manage your mind and your emotions so that you can stop living your life around your husband's pornography addiction. I am going to teach you how to stop being the victim and how to conquer his pornography addiction, even if he never does. I'm Jolene Wynn. I am a certified life coach, and I am a member of the LDS faith and the wife of a former porn addict. And this is a podcast for the porn addict's wife. Hello, my ladies. Once again, I am so excited to bring to you a conversation that I had with one of my clients a couple of weeks ago. I opened up to my clients and I said, if any of you guys want to come on the podcast ever and share your story, you can. Just let me know. And I had so many of them reach out and say, yes, I want to share my story. I want other women to hear my story. And so we started recording these conversations, and I am so excited to bring to you this very special episode with one of my clients named Gina. And without further ado, here it is. All right, ladies, I am so excited to have Miss Gina on the podcast today. Miss Gina is one of my clients, and she volunteered and she said, I would love to come on the podcast and share her story a little bit. So I'm so grateful that she's here. So Gina, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit?
Hello, my name is Gina, and I am 56 years old, mom of three daughters, and I am a special ed. I teach autistic kids, kindergartners and first graders, and I have a partner that I've been with for 15 years, and I was previously married before, and that's kind of my life in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm. So how'd you find me?
Um, it's funny. I discovered my boyfriend's porn use about 5 years ago now. And so I had just been fumbling around trying to find podcasts, books, anything, websites that would educate me on what is going on. Um, and I came across Dr. Finlayson Fife's podcast, and I listened to her, a few of hers, and your interview came up with her. Mm-hmm. And so I listened to yours with her, and then I found you, and just your introduction, I will never forget it. Just your introduction to your podcast said, you can get better and you can live the life even if your partner never changes. I'm paraphrasing. Mm-hmm. And that got me. I'm like, that's it. That's what I need, because my partner's never going to change. Mm. And I never had that hope before. Before, it was everything I'd listened to was, your partner needs to get well, and he needs to do the work, and he needs to do this and this and this and this. And then you do your work on your side, and that's how you're going to get better. Mm-hmm. And I felt like, well, it's never going to happen for me. So I am never going to, I don't have much hope. It's either he needs to do X, Y, and Z before I can do X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And, you just saying that, I'm like, I'm in. That's it. I'm done. And I've been in other coaching programs before, not necessary for this at all, but it was always like, there's always that, gosh, the money. And lots of times I could logistically excuse my way out of that and say, well, I just don't have that right now. I'm not going to do that right now. But this was like a no-brainer. I think I signed up within days of hearing your podcast, just that little beginning. Like, it doesn't matter what you said after that. I was like, so I think I signed up about a year ago, a little over a year.
So yeah, just over a year ago, I think.
Yeah, and I've been on board ever since. Like my life has changed so much. I'm going to get emotional even thinking about it. I'm kind of a crier, but I just never thought I would get out of the cycle that I had found myself in.
Hmm.
And it's a mental cycle, and it just my playback was constant of how obsessed I was over the situation, over him. My feelings, I could not shake my negative feelings. I didn't have much um hope for anything. I thought, oh my God, this is the way I'm supposed to be. This is how I'm supposed to feel forever. And um I just never had heard of changing your thinking the way that you were the first person I've heard on how to process your emotions, and just the whole model
Hmm.
made so much sense to me that I never knew before.
Hmm.
And I'm like, gosh, that is amazing.
Hmm.
And then how you break it down, and for me anyway, it makes so much sense, and it actually relieves me of, oh my God, I can fix this. I
Yes.
can change this. That makes so much, because I'm kind of a logical person.
Yes.
And I'm kind of like, oh my gosh, I never thought of that. And it just opened my eyes to so many other things. So not only my feelings regarding pornography and my situation with my boyfriend, but how I process things with my daughters or my
Right.
work.
Yes.
And I can put that into play. And I'm like, wow. And
It's a,
it's not to say that I don't have any emotions anymore. It's not saying
uh-huh.
don't come back, and they don't come back and slap me in the face. I'm like, Gina, whoa. But at least now I know, like, oh, okay, this is okay. I got this. I can sit through this and process this. And I just feel like I have tools now that I didn't have before, that I didn't even know existed.
Yes, I think that's such a good point because one of the things that I think we want, especially when we're in that cycle that you were talking about, like I'm just in this cycle where I feel like I'm never going to get out of these negative feelings that I'm feeling, this negative mindset. I just feel like my life is negative. And one of the things that I think we want is to just be saved. We just want to be rescued from all that negative emotion. And I think that's something that people wish that I would do. Sometimes I wish it too. It's just like teach you how to never feel negative emotion ever again. But that's not what I teach. I don't teach how to change your thoughts so you feel better about porn. That's not what I teach. What I teach you is the tools to handle anything so that you can be okay no matter what, which is even better because we can't control other people. So it doesn't matter, not that it doesn't matter in that it's not that it's unimportant whether or not your partner changes, because obviously we all hope for that, but it is irrelevant to your emotional healing. And that's
Right.
the beauty of learning how to manage your own emotions and manage your mind, is that you're no longer stuck waiting for your circumstances to shift. And then even if things shift back later and there's, negative and positive that happens and you feel more negative emotion, it's not a problem because you know what to do with it.
Right.
Love that.
And I totally agree. I feel like I thought my circumstances have to change in order for me to feel better.
Yeah.
And because that probably is not going to happen, or not going to happen quickly enough or soon or anytime soon, I felt hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that there are things I can do on my end and my circumstances are irrelevant to what I can do
Mm-hmm.
to make myself better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and once you taught that, and you show us how to do that, I just felt like, okay, thank goodness I have a way to feel better about things, that before I just thought my circumstances determine my life.
Yes. And I think that's
Right.
how so many of us think. That was one of the things that I loved about the model, about learning about the model, was that it laid it out so clearly. I didn't realize, I didn't think that about my life ever, but I didn't have it laid out in such a clear way for me to help break it down in my brain and recognize where I was putting circumstances in charge of my life and where I wasn't. And so learning that for myself was so freeing. I mean, it's one of the things that inspired me to become a coach is I was like, man, I didn't even realize that this was something I could teach, something I could help people learn. And it's such a powerful thing, such a freeing thing that I was just like, I got to go teach other people how to do this because otherwise we just kind of stay stuck in that cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And it's true because you teach me, and then I'm able to, like, if my daughters are having a bunch of emotions or feelings that I don't really teach them the model, but
Uh-huh.
I questions like the way that you lead into, discovering what you're really feeling, what the root feeling is. I can do that with my girls and get them, oh, I thought it was just angry. Oh, I'm
Uh-huh.
sad because of this or that. And for me too, it's like I thought I didn't really understand the layering of emotions either.
Mhm.
I thought, well, I'm just angry because of X, Y, and Z. I'm just angry. But no, it runs deeper than that. And then you teach us how to like peel off the layers of the onion to get down to the root of the your root feeling, and it's just that just blows my mind. Like, oh, I thought it was just this, but it's actually that.
Mhm.
And just sitting through your coaching calls and listening to you work with the other women and helping them process through their stages really helps me because it helps me practice the steps, if you
Mhm.
will.
Yeah.
Like, lead certain questions and you have them go kind of in stages and steps in the
Mhm.
process. And then that helps me practice that. So when I'm needing to do that on my own, I remember how you lead the women through it, and then I can do it. So the coaching calls, even if I don't jump on and need help or anything, I love listening to them when I can because um, what you do with the other women helps me learn, I guess, if you.
Mhm. I love that. I do love that about the group. I love that even when you, and this happened just on the call we were just on, is I was coaching someone and someone typed in the comments was like, wow, I didn't even think I was going to resonate with her coaching, but I did. Like it was just so powerful. It was like I took something from that I didn't even know that I needed. It's one of the things I love about the group. And I know that you have found like a best friend in the group, which I just love.
Yeah, she and I are very close, and we talk weekly, but and that's amazing too. Like, there are many women in the group that I talk to kind of on a regular basis, and that is another blessing that I never even anticipated, is finding other women that, I mean, I understand we're all together and we all relate to a lot of feelings that we each have because we're kind of here for a common
Right.
reason. But yeah, to make friends actually outside of this issue is really amazing. And um the retreat was amazing. I will never forget it, and I'm working so hard to get to the next one. um it's a blessing just beyond coaching because you connect with women even outside of this issue, and you just never know what other things could come about it. And it gives us, I think this coaching has given me my agency back. I felt like before I was just going to be tossed around with the wind, like
Yeah.
whatever. Um, and I didn't really want to do anything. I didn't want to work on myself. I didn't want to go for things I wanted to do. I was always um, dependent on what was happening here at home. And going through coaching has totally changed that. I'm like, okay, I don't need to live this 24/7.
Yes.
Um, I was living it 24. I put
Yes.
everything on the back burner. I mean, I did all the things that were required of me, but I didn't care. You
Right.
know, I was very robotic. I probably came to work with a bad attitude. I did isolate a lot. I didn't want to be with my daughters. I didn't want to be with anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to sit here and wallow in this.
Yes.
Um, it's sad to say I gave up, 4 years. I won't say that, but 4 years of my life, I have been trying to hold down the fort here and trying to control everything,
Yes.
make the environment so that, he wouldn't watch porn. And that can't be. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
became some person that I just did not recognize,
Mm-hmm.
and didn't want to be this person. I don't want to be the babysitter or the police officer or the accountability partner, and it wasn't doing our relationship any good at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like this is the only way that I can make things stable.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, no, I didn't do anything. I
Yes.
wasn't anything. Nothing was changing. The only person that was drowning was me.
Yes.
And coaching has really helped me to be able to separate myself from what's going on.
Mm-hmm. I love that you brought this up because it is something that we all, I think most people go through this kind of phase where you're trying to control. And so in order to do that, you're trying to, your brain automatically goes to controlling your environment. It's like, okay, I'm drowning. Let me try and figure out how to make it so that I'm not. And the only thing your brain will latch on to most of the time is it will automatically latch on to things that are surrounding you, right? It's like, well, I feel this way because my husband's doing this thing or my partner's doing this thing. So let me try and fix it. And it will try all the ways. And let me be the accountability partner. Let me put all these things on his phone. Let me make sure that I look okay or that our intimacy is in a place that I think is better. Or let me try and change what I look like or what our house looks like so that there's no triggers, right? And you try to manage so many things that are just outside of your control that it's exhausting, which is why you feel like you're drowning. And all the emotions are still there. So the things that you're actually trying to control is what's happening internally. Of course, we don't recognize this. We're trying to control how we feel by changing everything that we're surrounded by, and that never works. And most of the time, we can't control everything we're surrounded by. So then we just get exhausted and very frustrated. And then we do want to give up because we're like, I'm trying all of this. I'm burnt out and I'm still where I was when I started. It's exhausting.
And it's so defeating.
Yeah.
And I scared myself because when we went to the retreat, I was telling my friend at the retreat, I was like, I'm embarrassed to be here because I I'm obsessed, and it scares me. I'm um more addicted to his addiction than he is.
Uh-huh.
And it scared me because I was literally, I don't have an addictive personality. And I lived every open minute of my life stalking him.
Mm-hmm.
And it scared me. And I remember when we were at the retreat, my friend said, this is your time to get some deep dive work. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's why I'm here. And I'm like, there's no way. I'm not going to share my story because these women are going to think I'm a nutcase.
Uh-huh.
And um, come to realize that my issues were very relatable to the other women. Other
Mm-hmm.
women were like, oh yeah, I've been there, done that. And I just broke down. I'm like, okay, that was freeing to know
Yeah.
that I wasn't alone. And I came home, and a month later, I mean, it took a lot of, I never thought I would get out of that cycle of just
Mhm.
trying to control every single element of our life. But I did. So I go back and forth. I'm not perfect at this yet, but much better. I'm much more positive, and I have more, because I know how to process things now. I can catch myself and say, okay, let's just sit down with this for a minute.
Mhm.
Let it run away with you, because that's what I would do. I would let my emotions just run away with me. I was reacting or taking actions based out of my emotions.
Mhm.
I'm very like impulsive in that way. And so I'm learning now how to just sit and process through this. Let's figure out what's going on really, and not being so reactive.
Mhm.
I'm very reactive. So I'm learning to just, okay, let's just work on this and see how you feel. And I always feel better. Like, even if it's not related to this, if it's some
Mhm.
other idea I have or something, I'm like, oh, okay, this is this. Okay, let's just sit with it for a minute. And I just can't tell you how much better I'm able to enjoy life,
Yes.
And
I love this.
you always have to be positive. And you've brought this up lately too in coaching. We don't, who said that we're always supposed to have these positive feelings? And if we don't have these positive feelings, then something must be wrong with us.
Mhm. Mhm.
I always kind of felt like that. Well, if I'm not having this rainbow and unicorn life, there's something wrong. Like, there's
Right.
something with me or with my family or with my boyfriend, or there's got to be something wrong. And it's got,
Mhm.
um, but now I understand, like, no, your whole human experience is to feel it all, and
Mhm.
it's okay. And there's nothing wrong with you. And you're going to be safe. You're going to be fine. And let's just sit through this and work through this and let it go. And I love your imagery that you use, like, the beach ball thing sticks with
Mhm.
um and I use that a lot. So there's a lot of other tools that you use that are um good for me, that I kind of can grab right away. Like, if I'm in
Right.
the middle of thing and I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm like, oh, the beach ball. Like, for me, that works for me.
Mhm.
Like, you're trying to push stuff down, and what if you just let it go and sit with you? And the other one you use, like, oh, you let this emotion in, and they're sitting on your couch and they're watching TV, and you're like, well, you're allowed to say, oh yeah, no, you're not welcome in my house anymore.
Uh-huh.
Like, oh, I thought it had to be here all the time.
Uh-huh.
So now I have permission to say, no, excuse me, you can go, you know?
Yeah.
And I
I
just love those visuals that you use too.
I love that. I love that you brought that up, especially because when we get in the same routine, especially if you've been dealing with something like this for a long time, your brain will develop a pattern of how it thinks you behave around it and the way that you're supposed to respond to it, right? So your brain will develop a pattern of like, I'm supposed to feel anxious about this, right? And so it will just produce that on its own because it's used to it. And it's like, oh, this is my job. I'm supposed to produce anxiety about my partner's behavior. That's what I'm supposed to do. And when you become aware of your brain and aware of your emotions, just like you said, that's the visual that I always give. It's like, okay, this is like anxiety, right? It's that thought that you have of like, what is he doing? And I need to check on it, and anxiety. And it just comes, and it just has been here so often that it just walks in the front door. It just is like the neighbor kid that thinks it's lives at your house, right? And they come and they sit down and they grab Doritos and they turn on a show. And you can now say, wait a minute, it's time for you to go. I don't have to have you in my house. I don't have to have you here. Even though you've come a million times before, even though I've let you in and sat next to you and let you hang out for as much as you've wanted, today, I don't have to. And you can excuse it. And it's going to come right back in. And you say, no, no, we just need to train you that you are no longer welcome, that I don't have to listen to you. I can acknowledge you always. You can
Right.
knock on the door. I can always acknowledge you and say, oh, okay, here's my old thought that wants to come back and wants to produce the same emotion because that's what my brain thinks its job is. And I can just remind my brain, oh, I don't need that anymore. I'm thinking different things. I'm feeling different things. I'm giving myself permission to let go. And I think that's a beautiful thing that you said is like, you wanted to just wallow in this, right? When like those 4 years, like this was it 24/7. This was my life. And I wanted to just sit in it. And so many of us do. And yet it's so miserable. And it's difficult to give yourself permission to start moving forward, mostly because of what we make it mean. We make it mean that we're just going to forgive and forget, or that it wasn't a big deal, or that we were overreacting, or that we were crazy, right? And it doesn't mean any of that at all. It means that you're giving yourself permission to start living your own life again.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's beautiful.
And it's true because it feels like you have a little bit of your life back. And it all you've also taught us that what actually gave me a lot more freedom too and took a lot off me was we always learn that, you know, we are enough and our feelings are valid and just because they are our feelings, which gave me a lot of peace. But what also gave me a lot of peace and which I never um wanted to accept before was that his his behavior and his choices are not about me. And
Yes.
if there's one thing that women could learn through your program is that this is not about you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because of you. And they are going through their own struggles. And I also like how you really respect the men in our lives as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a male bashing group or anything like that. And it gave me a little bit more empathy for my boyfriend because before it was like, I don't like you. Can't stand you're a horrible person. You've got bad morals. You've got bad values.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and before your coaching, that's what I held on to. And that was why he's doing all these things because he's such a horrible, terrible human
Right.
being. Um, but you've taught us also as far as the men in our lives that no, they are struggling too in their own way and their journey is theirs, but we can also help ourselves and see him in a different light and be supportive in whatever way, you know, works for each person. But now I see him differently.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't I'm obviously not happy with choices and things like that, but now I don't have this, you know, I'm going to say it, hate for him. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just felt so much negativity and bad feelings for him, but now I don't. I understand, and I'm actually. It's not the shock factor is gone because I more empathize with him, even though he doesn't realize he's hurting.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't realize I was hurting.
Right.
So it gives me more empathy for him and takes a lot of pressure off of me because I can't fix him. I
Right.
can't change things as far as his behavior is concerned. And that kind of freed me up too.
Mm-hmm.
That the responsibility is not mine. My responsibility is my side of the lane and his is his.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm explaining that right, but that just took a lot of pressure off of me.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that. And it is one thing that I love. And I really firmly believe that I have a lot of compassion for these men. I don't hate them. I didn't hate
Yeah.
my husband, right? Which is part of the hard part. It's like if you just hated him, then you could have just said like, "Peace out, man. This isn't
Yeah.
for me." But the problem
Right.
is that there's both, right? There's the hate, and then there's like, "Yeah, but I love you so much, and I want to be with you." And so, how do I reconcile that? And then that just makes us feel even more crazy and more torn apart, especially when we're like, "Well, how can I love him if he's doing this thing that I hate?" Right? And it's learning how to separate all of those pieces. But really, I think the ability to sympathize or empathize with these men comes from learning how, let me see if I can say this correctly or make it clear. When we view them as a bad person, then it perpetuates our own victimization. And when you start separating that, when you start recognizing that you don't need to be the victim, then it automatically means you don't need a villain. And that automatically then, as a ripple effect, gives you the opportunity and the space to hold more sympathy and to, or at least release more negativity that you've been holding on to because you realize you don't need it. Does this
Right.
make sense?
Right. And even separating, like you've taught us a lot too, separating the behavior from the man.
Yeah.
Like I was combining it all together.
Yes.
And if I were to step back, I would say, no, this is a good man. Like he does wonderful things. And his behavior is what you don't like. His choices are what you don't like. You don't, it's not the man, it's the
Mm-hmm.
choice. And if you learn even further, his choices are stemming from something deeper in him that he's not addressing, right? So that helped me out a lot because I was just swarming him all into one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was becoming the victim, and then I had this whole vindictive attitude about it.
Yes.
And I didn't like that. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
that way. So I didn't like that about myself. And then you get on the whole judgment thing and self judgment thing. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a bad person now because I think he's such a bad person. And I'm not, and it just becomes this thing. And you're
Yes.
like, okay, once you learn to separate, and you can have, like, I like how you taught us, you can have opposing um emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you can feel this and still have this too.
Yes.
Like you feel positive about something even though something negative happened too.
Yes.
Or trust your husband but just not in this area. Like
Mm-hmm.
that frees you up so much because you think it's all or nothing. It always has to be all or nothing, and that's not true. And you're like, oh gosh, I can breathe again. I can have all these things and it's okay. It
Yes.
doesn't have to be one or the other. And I don't know where all that came from in my personal life, how I feel like it had to be all or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But teaching us we can have all of that and still enjoy it, because if you focus on all of the negative stuff, you're not allowing any positive things to come in.
Mm-hmm.
I could see all of these things that you were teaching in myself, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so freeing. I didn't realize how bound up I was in so many thought patterns that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, guess what, Gina? After 56 years, you can change your thought pattern.
Yes.
Really?
I
I
know, right?
like my programming, I can change that.
Yes. I
So
love that because I like that you brought up how old you are because I know that that was something you were self-conscious about with joining the group and then again coming to the retreat. You were like,
right.
man, I don't know. Am I going to be the oldest one there? No, you're not.
Yeah. And I just felt like, and all these things are so self-imposed, you don't even realize. But I was like, I'm 56. These women are probably going to be way younger than me. My coach is way younger than me, and I should have my stuff together by now. Like, why do I not have my life in order? And how embarrassing is that? Like, it all comes
All
up all
those
the
thoughts. But you're not. There's nothing wrong with you. And there are women older than you in the program. So you're not the oldest one. And I like that you said that you can still change it. Like age is completely irrelevant, right? There are some women in our group who have known about their husband for 20 years. And then there's other women who found out 6 months ago. And they're all different ages and it doesn't matter because time is irrelevant, age is irrelevant to change, which is the best news ever because it doesn't matter how long you've been in the same cycles or had the same thought patterns because you can still change it whenever you decide to, which I think is again one of the most beautiful things is the ability to change. And it is irrelevant to how long you've been suffering, you know?
right. I agree. I feel like we're always learning, and we always have the ability to evolve. And once you learn that you can totally change the programming. And a lot of it is like you do these deep dives and you're like this morning's coaching call, you know, with one of the women who was talking about her family. I'm like, wow, it's not necessarily always about your partner, your husband.
Mm-hmm.
On There's other areas in your life that you might still be struggling with, like some
Mm-hmm.
emotions that come up for you in family or friendships or work. And you can still work in this group with all of those things too,
Mm-hmm.
which is very helpful because sometimes you've put, um, or you weren't even aware, or you put it on the back burner about other areas in your life that you feel are, hurting, or you're not even aware of, like she wasn't
Totally.
aware of things until certain circumstances for her changed at home. So you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I can use these tools and process these emotions that I have from family issues or work, or
Mm.
so that too, that you can use all this stuff for any area of your life.
Mm-hmm. I love
And
that. That's fascinating. I've never thought of it in that way, but it's completely true. When you are so consumed emotionally by what's going on with your husband and his behavior, or your partner, or whoever it is in your life, right? It it often drowns out, or we don't have the capacity, because so much of our emotional capacity is taken up just dealing with this and surviving, that there's so many other things that don't receive the attention that we would normally give them. I have never thought about it in this way, is that the more you learn how to get past this, how to free yourself from this, the more you're able to improve everything else, because you then have the emotional capacity to do so. And then you also have the tools. And that is one of the beautiful things about everything that I teach. These tools are applicable in all areas. It's not something that's specific to this in particular, although that is how I teach it. It's
Mhm.
it's to improve, yourself as a mom if you want to, or to change how you think about your work, or to process old experiences, which is something that comes up a lot, right? Is, I have this memory that keeps popping up and I don't know why, and we process that. I think that's beautiful to bring out, that the more you heal from this, the more you're able to heal in other areas, because you have the capacity to do so. You have the energy that you can shift in those directions. I love that.
Yeah. And I like, you brought something up just right there. Like, you're so consumed with this that you don't, like, other areas are getting maybe neglected. And
Mm-hmm.
I know for a lot of us, um, body image comes up, and
Yes.
all these things. And in your modules, you talk about so many different aspects that, you know, might have emerged, become to the forefront because of your husband's addiction or choices. But then they really came from a while ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your body image, you might think, oh, my body image issues started because my husband watches porn. But no, it's probably, if you dig a little deeper, it probably started with you at some earlier point in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Their porn use, more often than not, started in something that was them, that triggered them from their earlier
Yes.
part, right? So, that's really helpful to the modules, because you do such good work with body image and all the things that women kind of take on, and maybe we didn't even realize that. I knew my body issues started in junior high, so, but I didn't really think they were um a big factor in my life. I
Mm.
knew I had them, but I didn't think they were, a big factor until I found out about my boyfriend's porn use. And then I'm like, oh, that's why. That's obvious.
Yes. Uh-huh.
But I didn't really put the two together until then. But then it's like, okay, good. I can work on this too. This isn't, this is something separate that is my issue that I need to work on, which I probably never would have worked on
Mm-hmm. I
until.
know. That's so fascinating. Same way. I always felt like I was very secure in, like, my personality and who I am and my beliefs. And values and all of those things. And it was always my physical insecurities that I had. So then, of course, my brain did the same thing. My husband was watching porn. I was like, oh, that's why. Oh, it's because I'm fat and ugly. That's it right there. I already know the reason, right? And your brain will just assume that and connect it to something that you already believe. And I love that you can change what you believe about yourself. I think that's one of the most exciting things is choosing to change what you believe about yourself. It's recognizing, okay, what is it that I already believe? Let me accept that. Let me stop judging myself for it or thinking I should have already figured this out or think I should believe differently about myself and then process that and then choose something else and retrain my brain in order to make it happen because that I think that that's again a truer reflection of agency and choice. I think we typically limit it or think about it limiting to just our actions and learning the model and learning that I could choose not only my actions but my thoughts and the things that I believed was very empowering to me. And I love that I get to teach that.
And you even break it down. So you teach us how to um, graduate into a new thought, right? And you tell us you can't tell yourself you have a beautiful, hot, sexy body when you've programmed yourself for whatever reason to believe you have an ugly, fat body.
Yes.
You can't go from that to this because your mind won't let you believe that because that's not what you believe, right?
Okay.
So you teach us how to do the little mini steps to get there. And that is also very helpful because you don't feel like you have to have this big leap because you know you're not going to believe that.
Right.
Like affirmations to me, if you put them on the stickers on your bathroom wall and every day you read, I'm wonderful and beautiful and the most sexy thing, yeah, that's not going to work because my
Right.
says you're not.
Uh-huh.
So I like how you teach the little baby steps to get you there. And, I love that because that also makes me feel that I can be successful in this
Yes.
before even just saying affirmations and doing mantras and all this stuff. I don't believe it really in my heart. So it's like that's not gonna work.
Right.
But you teach it into just graduating into little believable changes is so great because that's doable in my logical mind. I can do that and reach different thought patterns through, work on it in steps. I love that.
I love it. Oh, okay. I'm so glad that you came on and shared today. Is there anything else that you wanted to share to all the podcast listeners?
Um, I will say you found Jolene at this point, right? And I would totally recommend your program. I have seen amazing changes in myself that I thought I would never ever have. I'm a pretty stubborn individual and I tend to let my mind run away with me. And um, I've taught through you, I've learned how to teach myself um, how to process and my life has totally changed. My look on life is more positive. I feel like I have more control over my life that I didn't feel I had before. I don't feel like a victim anymore. Um, I'm more confident. I'm stronger. I'm more motivated. It's not to say that my whole life is flowers and butterflies, but when those 50-50 days come and I'm kind of on the other side of 50-50, I don't feel scared. I don't feel frightened because I know how to work through it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think your program is invaluable. I think that it's a lifesaver for a lot of us because I really do believe if I didn't find you, I'd still be in a world of hurt. And so I would recommend you to anyone who's listening. I love you so much.
Thank you. I love you so much. Thank you so much for coming on today.
You're welcome.
Hello, my lady. I wrote a book and I would love for you to read it. It's called The Not Enough Wife, and you can get it on Amazon today. This book is for any woman who has ever felt like she wasn't enough, not enough as a wife or as a mom, if she didn't have Instagram-worthy enough pictures, if she didn't throw Pinterest-worthy parties, if she ever felt like she was not enough, this is the book for her, and it's for you too. So go to Amazon today, go search up The Not Enough Wife by Jolene Wynn, and grab a copy for yourself and for all the women in your life. I hope you love it, and I can't wait to hear what you think.